Welcome to the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast, the space where we breathe deeply, live more intentionally, and find meaning in the messy middle of life. I'm your host, Kendra Chapman, mom of triplets, busy professional, caffeine lover, and a big believer in slowing down so we can show up fully. If you're a busy human navigating career, family, life changes, or all of the above, you're in good company. Around here, we don't chase perfection. We build rhythms that support peace, clarity, and joy. Or, like I like to say, Huga. Whether you're listening to this episode during your morning commute, habit stacking, or simply sitting and enjoying your favorite beverage, this space is for you. Today, I'm incredibly honored to welcome my guest, Darci Steiner, to the show. Darci has an amazing story of resilience, faith, and transformation. She has served in ministry as a teen women's ministry leader and even assisted with church plantings in Denver and Los Angeles. In 2001, Darci faced a life-altering event when she nearly lost her life after a debilitating fall. Through her recovery, she took a powerful step forward, earning her Master's of Science degree in holistic nutrition and implemented natural remedies into her diet that truly helped save her life. Darci's journey with health challenges continued when she became disabled a second time after a foot injury in 2018. Through this experience, she bravely channeled her experiences into her debut book, Beyond the Thorns, Discovering Gifts in Suffering, and its companion, which is a study guide for Beauty Beyond the Thorns, Discovering Gifts in Suffering. Darci and her husband have 2 adult daughters and 1 precious baby granddaughter, and they live in the Denver area. I want to welcome Darci. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have our conversation today, Kendra.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So for those listeners out there that want to know more about your experience, before we get into your backstory, do you have any thoughts on what it means to go slow to go fast for you?
Yeah, I love the name of your podcast because I think it's how we're meant to live, right? I mean, in order to, like, for instance, if we rush around, we get hurt, right? We're going through the kitchen, we're trying to rush cutting that tomato, and we get hurt. But if we slow down, we're actually more productive.
Right.
And that's why I love that. And we're more thoughtful. We can be more present. And so I've been thinking about that since you invited me on here. What does that mean? And I need to take heed to that more because I don't always do that because I do like to be productive and I do kind of pack my days. But, it doesn't mean it's necessarily the best way to go through life. But my debilitating pain also forces me to slow down at times. And so I've struggled to do that, but I have learned so much from doing that.
You are a strong woman of faith, and you've shared that with me. And obviously that's evident in your work. What are your thoughts on what has happened to you in your life? Do you believe it was divine intervention? Do you believe that you're meant to go through this path in this lifetime to share your message with everyone?
I don't think it was divine intervention. I think it happened because I was going fast. However, I do believe that God has used this. And the second time, because there are 2 times when I got deeply injured, was not my fault. I wasn't going fast. I was sitting. And so, a chair fell and hit me. And so was that divine intervention? I don't know. I don't think God hurts us, but I think he uses the things that we go through to help people know him, to help us know him more deeply. And that is indeed what happened to me. Is it brought me into a deeper understanding and relationship with him because I had to, because I was just sitting all day. So what do? You've got to do something with your mind, and how are you going to control those thoughts and all of that? So Yeah, I think God has definitely used it.
Yeah. And you have too, obviously, with your work and speaking with people, your message. And I'm sure there have been many people who have found comfort in your message and what you're sharing. And I'm wondering, as you've gone through these periods of disability, can you tell us more about, maybe how it's impacted you personally? Any like struggles that you've gone through and how you've gotten yourself back up again every time?
Well, yes, the first time I was disabled, I really couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. I had to use a commode by my bedside. And I had 2 young children, ages 5 and 2.5. And my heart broke. My heart just broke because all I wanted to be at that point in time in my life was a mom. And I felt like God answered that prayer with, I have this amazing husband and then these 2 beautiful children, and then the rest was gonna be a fairy tale story, right? I get
Mm-hmm.
to raise my 2 beautiful daughters and do all these fun things with them, and I did, but it was delayed for a little while. It was delayed and I didn't know that it would just be a delay. I thought this was gonna be what the rest of my life looked like. And so I went into a deep, deep depression, and I also was in so much pain, I struggled to eat. And for those listeners who have had severe debilitating pain, you know what I mean. It hurts to eat. And so I wrestled with that, and I lost a lot of weight and my life was at risk. And so I had to do something to try to help save my life because I was malnourished and doctors were fearing for my life. So, yeah, I thought about it a lot. And then my second disability was a little different and still is a little different because I'm still in it, but completely different place in my life. So completely different thoughts and completely different experiences in a lot of ways. When the first disability happened, I was 35, and the second one happened in my middle 50s, 58-ish is middle, right? That's not late, is it? Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
my kids had already gone off, and so it was just me and my husband. So that part was a little bit easier. My mom years they're never over, but, they
Just
didn't need
different.
me. Yeah, it's just very different. So, being with my husband, it actually drew us closer.
Mm.
And I was so surprised by that because the first one didn't.
Hmm.
We were in a different place. It was much more stressful, but I did lament, like, really, God? Like, again? You healed me from the first time. Why a second time? I could not wrap my head around it. And I wouldn't say that I went into a severe depression because my nutrition education helped me, prevented me from going into a depression because of supplements that I was trained to use. And so that was really helpful. So yeah, I'm continuing to learn about, how do I get through life with this, but I don't feel like this is going to be forever. I do feel like I will come out of this, and I almost did a few months ago, but I was making so much progress, I overdid it, and then I've had a setback. And so I'm in a pain flare right now in my condition, which is called complex regional pain syndrome. So it's a severe nerve pain disorder that, when ranked on a pain scale, ranks the highest pain one can feel.
Yeah, gosh.
So, and there is no cure, which is why it was miraculous that I was healed the first time. And we'll get more into that.
Yeah. It's a fascinating journey that you've been on because the first time you said, you definitely experienced that heartbreak and the depression. The second time you recognized what this could lead to. And so you were more informed and you were able to prevent the nutrition concerns and the depression concerns because you'd been
Yes.
trained in all of that.
Yes.
So It's interesting to hear. It's like you've been here before, you know what to do next, but you're still learning. And so where is your mindset now that you're going through this new experience and this new process of just still being in pain, but working through that challenge?
Yeah, great question. Right now I'm very focused on publishing my next book. I'm very outward focused in trying to help other people through their pain, either, as a nutrition client or just people that come to me or people that I'm around. I'm trying to just help them understand things that I've been through. I mean, I've been through this before and I'm going through it again. And I did learn some things and I'm older. And so, but some people don't want to hear from older people, so
Right.
that's a challenge. But there are
Mm-hmm.
those that do. And
Mm-hmm.
so those that do, I share my story. And of course, my first book tells my story and, some different things that helped me there, some gifts that I discovered in suffering that continue to help me. And I've continued to gain more gifts. It's like a treasure hunt. If you look at it that way.
Right.
And I'm not saying that I don't experience hard days because I've had some really hard ones recently. In fact, in all transparency, currently I am using the commode again because it is very difficult for me to walk to the bathroom even. So I am housebound, but I can write books, I can do podcasts. So I give what I have. And that's what I have. I can't go to church, but right now I'm watching The Chosen with a friend and we're talking about it because she doesn't understand Jesus or the Bible. So we're doing that for church. So right now I'm just trying to focus on other people and help as many people as I can and get a message out that no matter what you're going through, there's always hope, always hope. And I can say that because I've experienced that. I gave up
Absolutely.
hope once. Come to find out, I was given it. And so I have hope again. And I think one of my core messages is just hope still. There's still reason to hope. And we can look at that not only from a physical challenge point of view, but job loss or financial trouble or political issues. There's just so many ways that the world needs hope. And so that's what I'm trying to be and give is my message of hope.
Absolutely. And I think not only are you a message of hope, I think you're definitely a message of faith and hope. And you're sharing your message with anybody who's willing to open and listen and be open to listen. Like you said, there's a lot going on in the world right now. A lot of people are in physical pain, mental pain, spiritual pain, or they just don't know. Maybe they're numb. They don't even know, you know. Yeah. So, and you were sharing a little bit about when we talked before about your experience when you were in, I don't know if you want to call it remission, but you were in that place where you felt like you had gotten past the pain and you were becoming more independent. And you had that moment where you were able to drive for the first time in a while. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So after not knowing if I was going to get better, I did eventually start getting better after I started implementing nutrition things because I enrolled in a nutrition program. And anyway, that helped me and pool therapy helped me and got me to a place where I was better. I was healed. I mean, not better, as in, are you doing better? Better than yesterday? I mean, better is kind of an off word, but I was healed. And there is no cure for what I have. And so it's interesting that for 9 years, I could hike again. I was fully involved with my kids. And that's what my focus was my kids, because I was given back being a mom, was teaching sports nutrition at the high school that they went to. And they were in some of my classes because they were in sports. So I taught,
Wow.
the basketball team, I taught the cross country and soccer and all of it, and so they got to see me come full circle, and I don't know what their thoughts were at that point, but I'm sure it was much better than when they were pushing me around in the wheelchair, you know? And so a lot of good things happened during that time, and, loved hiking, doing things. I was just given my life back,
Mm.
you know? And imagine that, just coming from a place of not being able to even reach over and grab a pencil off of the bedside table, you know? And so I was given a gift of healing, and that was amazing. And driving was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome. So I was given independence back. Now I'm not as independent, but yes, recently, a few months ago, when I was going back uphill and getting better, I did drive again, and it felt amazing. I went to the therapy pool by myself. My husband usually takes me and works at the therapy pool while I'm there and lets me do my thing, and then he brings me home. But I was able to take myself and do it, and I could only do it one time before I, have this current pain flare. So, but I got a taste,
Yes.
and I'm grateful for it.
I can only imagine what that would feel like to have so much setback and then have a day or 9 years where you feel like you're back to whatever that normal self is like, whatever you hope to feel like again, and then have it taken away again. So being back and forth in those different bodies, like the pain body or the, free feeling of independence, but knowing that you know what both feel like, obviously that stays with you. And so you have that hope of feeling that again.
I think that's a good point. I think because I was given it and I look back and I see, okay, this probably isn't forever. You're just in a period of waiting. And so do what you can while you can. And what I can do right now is write books and speak and get on podcasts and, write articles. So I'm trying to do what I can in this place. And a lot of people don't even know I'm disabled because I am a nutritionist and I teach nutrition. So some people don't even realize that I'm
Right.
disabled.
Yeah. I mean, talking to you right now, I wouldn't think that you were having any challenges because you're able to bring your light to this podcast and you're on camera and you look great and you're smiling. But of course, there are people out there that are going through all kinds of things and we don't know what their life is like and what might be behind that facade. So thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing what's going on with you right now and what has gone on with you in your journey because it's a great message no matter what you're going through. Any listener out there right now who's dealing with whatever level of challenge, I'm hoping that you hear something from Darci's message today. And Darci, I do sometimes when I'm doing my solo podcasts, typically I kind of share like kind of my version of what I'm grateful for at the beginning. And you've talked a little bit about that. But is there anything right now that, beyond being able to continue to teach and write that you're grateful for right now that you want to share?
Absolutely. The first thing that comes to my mind is my husband. I am so grateful for this man who is a caregiver, but he's also my best friend. He's my lover, and we can compartmentalize those so that we can enjoy each other. And he won't let me go through this by myself. He says, Darci, this is our journey. And I hate it. Yesterday, when he was emptying my commode, I hate that for him. I hate that for him. And he's like, you have a problem with it. I don't. And so I'm the one that needs to get over it. That's the kind of man that God gave me. And he had the foresight, to see what I would need because I didn't know I would need this. And, but Mark, what he does to help him get through this is he spends time with God every day. He sits in front of the fire most of the time because it's hardly warm in Colorado. It feels that way anyway. So he has a fire on often in the morning, and he'll spend time with God before I get up, and he'll center himself. He centers himself for his day. And often we'll have a fireside chat, and that's how we start our morning. And we end our day praying together. And so we're connected in a really deep way. And when he needs time, because it's hard to be a caregiver, and he wrote a chapter in my book about what it feels like, but he talks about feeling like the donkey in the story. Yeah, where the donkey is weighed down, you know, and so it is a weight on him. But I understand when I see it in him, he needs to go, and he needs to go watch TV, or he needs to go out with the guys, and I'm okay. But I wasn't the first time, the first disability. I was very dependent on him, and I didn't like him leaving in case I needed him. However, I have learned that I'm not alone. I'm not alone. And I feel and I draw from God his strength during those moments. And in fact, I've had some of the best times with God when Mark is gone. It's like he just shows up, you know? I have a specific story if you want me to share it.
Please do.
This was so profound to me, and it's never happened since. But there was one night was the night after I had gone to the emergency room. So I went to the emergency room. They can do nothing for me there. There's nothing that the hospital can do for me. So Mark was like, honey, they're just going to send you home. And I'm like, okay, I need to figure out a way to get through this. And I could see after a period of time that it was weighing heavily on him. And so after a couple hours of him staying with me and trying to help me through music, through talking, through, he couldn't really hold me because the pain. But anyway, he was there. And I'm like, you know what, honey, go watch a show. And I'm just going to lay back in the recliner here. I was already in the recliner. I'm just going to lay back. I'm going to just depend on God. I'm just going to pray. So Mark leaves and I start praying and I'm like, God, blah, blah, blah. Why is this happening again? Why would you let me go through this again? Please help Mark, and what can I do to help Mark get through this? And so I'm saying all my things, and then I wanted to listen. But what happened during the listening was Bible verses came to my mind. And so I started saying them out loud, and they were answers to those prayers. It was so remarkable to me. And the funny thing is, I know it was from God because they were Bible verses, Kendra, that I didn't remember. No, I didn't remember. I had memorized like 20 years ago, and they came to my mind. And so I repeated them. So it was like, okay, so that's your answer. And then I did it again. I prayed for more, and then more Bible verses came. And that's how my evening went. So
Wow. I often say to, at least in my own thoughts, I think about like prayer is the asking and meditation for me is the listening. So you were definitely with God, source, spirit, whatever anybody wants to call that. And that was clearly a two-way conversation. You weren't just in the room alone by yourself. That's inspiring because it gets us to think outside of ourselves and that there is that higher power, whatever you believe to be true. But that is a story that I can't say is not true because you clearly experienced it.
right.
It's amazing. Yeah. And that probably kept you going because I can, in my mind, when I'm not feeling well or I'm sick or I'm, dealing with something, the last thing I want to do is ask somebody else for help. And so you've had to go through that process of allowing your husband to help you and continuing to allow because he wants to. You don't have to make him. He wants to, and you have to allow. And so it's that constant give and take. And that's obviously making your relationship stronger. And it's maybe a lesson we all have to kind of be reminded of too, to allow.
Yeah. Allow humility, you know. It's not a bad thing. It draws us closer. And I mean, but even yesterday I was like, this is so hard, to let him do that. I don't want him to do that. But he's like, you're the one that's not okay with it. He's right. So I got some growing to do.
Yeah, and it's the way that he's showing love, and we just have to be reminded to receive love in different ways. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, that's a great reminder. So, you have shared that you are working on a second book. Do you want to share a little bit more about that and how that's come to fruition?
Sure. So yeah, I have a list of books that I want to write, and this one is turning out completely different, just like the first
Mm.
one turned out completely different.
Mhm.
um, so before I query my book, I
Mhm.
thought I'm going to write the whole thing
Mm.
because I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with the deadlines
Uh,
given my situation.
right.
Most people who write books write a part of it and then query it. Well,
Mm.
I've written the entire thing and it's taken me 3 years. I've been
Wow.
working on it for 3 years and it's complete. And I'm just working on the proposal right now, which
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
almost a book in itself. It's
Wow.
just, it takes so much time. It's so
Mm.
detailed. So I've been
Mhm.
working on that, but it's called The Greatest Hits of the Bible. At least my working title, it's called The Greatest Hits of the Bible,
Okay.
Experiencing God through the Psalms. So I cover the backstories of the Psalms and what it was like. I take you there to be beside David as he writes. So there's a story that I tell. So David was a fugitive hiding in caves from King Saul.
Mhm.
King Saul hated him because people were chanting his name more than his.
Mhm.
And David was going to take his place on the throne. So he
Mhm.
sought David for many years, trying to
Mm.
kill him.
Mm.
And so David was hiding in a cave early on. And come to find out, there's 400 other guys in there who are also fugitives hiding. And he writes this psalm, Psalm 34, and I think it's verse 14. So in verse 18,
Mhm.
Psalm 34, it says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit.
Mm.
So wouldn't you think that David would be writing about something that was around him? He's with these guys in the cave. These guys are brokenhearted. It says in the Bible that they were distressed, they were
Mhm.
discontented, and they were in debt.
Mm.
So the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. These guys are brokenhearted and crushed, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think he was writing to them and for them. And they're the
Mhm.
first ones to have witnessed this psalm, to have heard it.
Mm.
And so David, I imagine, sang it. And I imagine these guys learned it and probably were singing it while they were going through the cave or doing whatever, going out and getting
Right.
food and learning about David's God. And it says that these guys eventually became the backbone of the army of God. And they
Mm.
fought with David, and some of them even became his mighty men.
Wow.
That is so cool. So I go
It is.
and take you behind the scenes of the
Yeah.
psalm so that when you read, the Lord is close to the
Yeah.
brokenhearted, you know what was going on, right?
Mhm.
I connect the
Mhm.
history with the
Mm.
psalm so that it's a story. And
And
so
that's
I
going to
don't
be, yeah, it's easier to remember too what was going on based on your historical research.
exactly. And I also connect it with other current day songs that
Mhm.
kind of go along with it so
Mm.
that it makes it more relatable to today. Because some who read the Psalms are lost. I mean,
Mhm.
we don't get it.
Right.
I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
get that until I did this
No.
research. And
Right.
I've been a Christian for 40 years, you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And so I think a lot of people don't know the stories behind the Psalms.
Mhm.
And so It's like a theatrical music production where I include music. And so that's why I call it the greatest hits of the Bible. And so that's
I love that.
kind of what my book is about. Yeah.
Yeah. And even if, anybody listening, if not everybody listening is a Christian, you can still, take information away from, the Bible as a historical document. It was, written a long time ago. And so it's definitely something that, for at least that time of history was documenting what people were going through. And so you could decide to take it or leave it. But I think it's good information for anybody out there, agnostic, atheist, or Christian, or Muslim, or, whatever your background is. It's interesting to hear about the life and times of people of that day. And so that's great information to know. And unless I've gone to theology school, I'm not going to be probably doing all that research. So it's great to read a book that has a lot of that background already done for us, and in a fun way with songs, because that's the way I think a lot of us have learned through the years and carried on that historical information and passed that down.
And if I may speak into that, who hasn't listened to a song and been impacted by it? We all remember, like when ABBA sung something, or Alabama, or the Carpenters, or, whoever today. We all have those moments where we remember that was from high school. I remember I was doing this when I first heard this song.
Yeah.
And so songs impact us. And so it's not just a historical book, it's a musical book. And it is a Christian-based book, but it's not written only for Christians. Like you said, I think it's a fun book because it does tell stories. It's a storytelling book about real people who lived long, long ago.
Right.
And, stories of, winning a war, how two women won a war. It's a story of Queen of Sheba visiting Solomon. And so, it's for women, it's for men, it's for teenagers. It's for anybody.
There are lots of stories, and I personally went to Catholic school growing up. And so we had religion class, and we would read the Bible frequently and have, learn these stories. And so the Old Testament and the New Testament are something that I'm very familiar with, but I couldn't spout off Psalms, and I couldn't, parts from the Bible. I just remember stories more so than anything. So the fact that you're bringing songs, into these stories is going to be probably even more impactful for people that are either picking it up for the first time, or again for, multiple, maybe the third time or more. So that's a different take that I haven't seen yet. So that's great. I love that approach.
That's why it took so long to write. It's multifaceted.
Yeah, I'm sure your index is amazing and very thorough.
My table of contents. Yeah, it's a big book.
It's
a big book, and but it has a part 1 and a part 2, and it has an intermission. So, it gives you time to get up and stretch and get some popcorn and come back and read volume 2.
Very good.
And it goes like this. It starts with lament and ends with songs of praise. And then the finale is a surprise that I didn't even know existed in the Bible. And it has become my finale. So not telling on that one.
I love it. You're leaving this suspenseful, and maybe one day we'll see this on the stage. It could become, something more.
It would be a great theatrical production. It would really, it would be.
That's exciting. Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Darci, I know that we unfortunately, I'm going to have to let you go soon, but I know that you are, obviously going to be continuing to write. You're writing probably all the time, sounds like. As you wrap up this 3-year project, you have a newsletter as well that you have recently changed the title to. It's called The Upside, or Upside.
The Upside.
The Upside. And so I'll make sure that we include your website, the newsletter, and any other information you want to make sure that people know about in the show notes. Beauty Beyond the Thorns
was my first book. I didn't know I was writing a book when I first started writing. Interestingly, my dad I had taken care of him before I had my fall down the stairs. I'm sorry, before I had my second injury that gave me the CRPS back. So my dad was a creative, and what he did was he drew pictures for people when they would come into the assisted living. So he was like the welcoming committee. And if their name was Mary, he would draw a picture of Mary. He also grew up Catholic. So he drew Mary for Mary, Jonah for Jonah,
Okay.
John for John, a flower for Megan, whatever. And so these pictures would pop up all over the assisted living facility. And I saw the impact that my dad made on these other people. And I was like, what am I doing? I want to do that. I want to give a gift away to make a difference. And so, but what is that? And so at his memorial service, I shared that I wanted to become like my dad. And I wanted to figure out what that thing was that I could give away. And so when I got hurt, I was writing and I started a blog. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put my imperfect words out there and I'm going to start a blog. Well, these blog posts look like book chapters. And so as I was looking at them one day, I was like, maybe I could write a book. And it was during COVID, and Bob Goff was doing an online book writing program. So I enrolled in that and I learned from Bob Goff. And so my chapters in my first book are short, like Bob Goff. He endorsed my first book, and he doesn't endorse many books, especially not a self-published book. But I've met him, spoken with him. He told me, keep putting my beautiful words out there. He's just very positive. And so he endorsed it. But yes, it's called Beauty Beyond the Thorns. And it's a story of not only what I went through, but gifts that you can gain while you're going through something difficult. For instance, the gift of perseverance. So I didn't have it in me to make it through the rest of the day. So how did I make it through the rest of the day? God gifted me perseverance. He gave me more. Okay, so gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something to be grateful for. And my counselor had to help me with this one because I'm like, I have nothing. I just have nothing to be grateful for. And she goes, okay, so look at something in your room. So I looked at a calendar, which was one that comes in the mail, not anything special, and it had a flower on it. So I focused on that flower. And she goes, okay, so look at that flower, and I want you just to be quiet for a couple minutes and look at that flower. So I did. And I became grateful. In fact, it's still etched in my mind. And I became grateful for a flower that was on calendar. I'm housebound. My husband brings in, do you see this flower behind me right here? You can see the vase better than the flower. When he goes on walks, he brings nature in for me. And we have these little vases, and they're usually singular flowers that he puts in these little vases, and he puts them on my desk so that I can enjoy them in my day. So he brings nature into me, and I'm grateful. And if I could pick up the dog dew, I would be grateful.
Right.
I can't.
Yeah.
So it is a gift that I've learned to be grateful for. Even if I could pick up the dog dew, I would be grateful.
Right.
So it
Because
changes.
that means you're up and you're
Yes.
moving and you're able to do anything.
So our perspective needs to change. And so I share 30 gifts that I've been given in suffering. And again, they're short chapters, so it's not too overwhelming.
Right.
But that's kind of the summary of Beauty Beyond the Thorns. And then the study guide follows along so that you can personalize it to you. The questions are so that you can go through chapter by chapter and put in whatever it is that you're going through. And I did this with a group of women at my church, and everybody's going through something different. But they all came out grown, grown from hurting to being grateful for having more perseverance for all of the gifts.
Right.
And this
Right.
group is still together today. And I did that with them 3 years ago, and we're all still together. So it's been a beautiful blessing. And the book, was released in 2021, but this month has been my seventh best month of sales. So it's still selling. It's
That's
still
awesome.
making a difference. I don't know who or where, but anyway, it's a good book if you're going through something or someone who's going through something that needs some encouragement, some hope.
Yeah. And if there's anybody out there listening and you have a group of, men, women, anybody that you are in community with and you're looking for a good book, sounds like that would be a great next purchase because you guys could discuss and then kind of chart out what you're grateful for, what your gifts are, even though you're going through challenges. So
Yeah.
that'd be a great way to continue that community and discussion. That's amazing. Great. Sounds like you guys are bonded and you'll continue to stay in touch and work through
We are.
whatever's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah. We've continued Bible study together and we take summers off, but we're still connected. People want to host coffees and things like that. And so I've unfortunately not been able to go because I can't get out of the house right now, but I will. I will one day.
Yeah, I know you will because you've done it before. So are you working on when you're writing this book and wrapping it up, this second book, are you going to do any kind of companion to the book like you did with your first?
What I did with this one is the questions are within the book.
Okay.
So it's not a separate book, which makes it partly why it's a bigger book is because there's room for journaling. There's room to answer questions. And so they're combined.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you. It's just inspiring to me as a aspiring writer to one day have a book out that, you are writing through pain, you're writing through difficult challenges that, keep you going and they've inspired you, but they've also kept you going. I think that's just speaks to definitely thinking about whatever you're working on out there, listeners, that we can keep going. We need to remember to be perseverant, persevere through challenge because it will happen, whatever it is you're working through.
yes. And don't neglect nutrition because, when I started incorporating amino acids and different supplements into my diet, it really saved my life. You know, God used good food and pool therapy to save my life during that first disability because I was dying from malnourishment. So don't neglect nutrition, whatever you're going through, stress eating, avoid sugar, but amino acids are the key thing that I talk about in my nutrition practice because I believe amino acids kept me from depression, helped me gain weight, muscle mass because of creatine.
Mm-hmm.
Different amino acids do different things in the body. And so I continue to take ones that help my mood. I continue to take ones that help my sleep. And so whatever nutrition client that I have, I give an amino acid, kind of a symptom chart. And based on symptoms, I can then determine what amino acids may be deficient that could help you in whatever it is that you're going through. So that again also came from practice and seeing, I was my case study in my schooling. So because I was my case study, I practiced these things on myself and now I'm able to practice them on other people and see how they benefit other people, not just myself. So that's a message too, is don't neglect yourself, your self-care, your body, your mind, take care of you with whatever it is you're going through.
And for the listeners out there that don't know exactly how amino acids show up in food form, what would be some, you mentioned creatine, what would be some other nutrients or types of foods that would be high in amino acids?
Well, amino acids are building blocks of protein. And so protein-rich foods such as meats, eggs, dairy. I know a lot of people can't eat dairy, but no worries. You can still get amino acids. Nuts are high in protein. Beans, quinoa. Quinoa is one of the best foods you can eat. It's a if you don't eat meat, then eat quinoa. So yeah, the different forms of proteins give you different nutrients. They have different, ways that it's hard to explain. So they have different blocks of proteins, of amino acids that can help. So, but I started because I couldn't eat. I started with protein powder. And you can put protein powder, you can mix it in different foods. You don't have to have it in smoothie form, but you can have it in smoothie form. And then you're getting, so when I have a smoothie, I put spinach in there, and I swear you cannot taste the spinach, but you can put, frozen fruits in there. You can put your milk or your milk alternative and your protein powders, a little bit of flax oil, which is good for your body and your brain. And you've got a great start right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good reminder, especially for those of you that aren't eating breakfast every morning. I know you got to kind of get your metabolism back on track and think about how often you eat and what you are putting into your foods and into your body ultimately for that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. All right. Anything else that you want to share with our listeners, Darci, before I let you go? This has been a great conversation.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
No, just encouragement to just keep getting up, keep going, keep learning, be creative, get in nature if you can, and use whatever gifts you have to give to other people, because that makes a difference not only for you, but for the world around us. And the world needs love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
Right? Yep. It's not just a song. It's not just lyrics to a song. It's definitely something we need to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for sharing your light and your message and your gifts with us today, because I know it's going to be something that, whether you're listening to this as soon as this podcast is posted in a couple of weeks or 5 years, 10 years from now, I'm hoping that you're hearing this because you need to. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a great talk.
That's it for today's episode of Go Slow to Go Fast. I hope that you feel inspired and empowered by Darci's wisdom to take proactive steps toward your own well-being and to look for the beauty beyond the thorns in your own life. And now I'd love to hear from you. What's one health habit that you're going to go slow on this week to make purposeful progress? What's your biggest takeaway from Darci's insights today? Let's keep the conversation going and connect with Darci. You can find her information in my show notes. Her website is www.darcisteiner.com, and we'll definitely make sure it's in the show notes. You can connect and sign up for her newsletter and check out her books. She has one definitely ready for purchase, and she's working on another one now. You can also connect with me by emailing me at coachingwithkendrachapman@gmail.com or visiting me at coachingwithkendrachapman.com. All of that will be in the show notes. If you forget, you can definitely check in and pull that down later. Or you can find me on Instagram at coachingwithkendrachapman. Let's walk through whatever season you're in with confidence and purpose and a little extra grace. And I hope that you're thinking about what you can do to get beyond the thorns and challenges in your life. And that I hope that you also share your gifts with the world. And if you resonated with anything in this podcast episode today, I hope that you'll consider sharing with a friend who could use a little moment of calm or clarity in their health journey. And let's remember, go slow to go fast, be intentional, and embrace the season you're in, because the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light and your gifts shine through. Remember to go slow to go fast, and thanks for listening.